Oh, hey there. Just wearing a Detroit Lions helmet. Welcome back to another episode of Hammer D20, the show that sometimes has trouble getting out of all these paper bags. My name is Steven Sobot, and I will be your guide. Today, we're going to talk about the mysterious world of escape rooms. Now, what's an escape room, some of you might ask? For those who don't know, an escape room is a place where you are locked in a room or a set of rooms and have to complete puzzles, solve riddles, and work together to get out of the room. You usually have a set time limit and are usually meant to be done with friends or colleagues. Many teams and organizations do this as some sort of team-building exercise for both corporations or even families or friends and whatnot. Although many equate escape rooms to the premise of the horror film Saw, escape rooms more or less actually get its start from old flash games from the internet, where the premise was pretty much the same: find clues and keys and escape the room. And there's other similar click-based adventure games like Myst or the Nancy Drew series of games. I, as a kid, remember playing some of these games and thinking to myself, man, I wish I could kind of do this in real life. Well, that dream is a reality because Hamilton is home to 7 different escape rooms. So I went down to Next Level Escape Rooms, as well as Keymaster Escape Rooms, and spoke to their owners, Greg and Heather Seachos, about what it's like running an escape room, designing a room, and the different kinds of rooms they have available. Steven, over to you.
Greg Seachos.
It's Heather Seachos.
So we own Keymasters and Next Level Escape Rooms. They are basically adventure games in Hamilton, Ontario that we focus on designing really cool sets and puzzles for customers to come and enjoy and solve a mystery of a story that we create in each room. And people are trying to solve them within 60 minutes in order to escape the rooms in time. Next Level is located on 1039 Upper James Street, and Keymasters is located at 305 Grays Road. We opened Keymasters in 2016, and we opened Next Level Escape Rooms in 2019. At Next Level, we have the Graveyard, which is this room. We have a room called the Thompsons, and then we have Tesla's Time Machine, and we have Clue, which is like the board game. Okay. It's not meant to be scary, but it is a graveyard set, so it is a little more eerie to be in there. There's no jump scares or live actors in the room or anything like that, but the set does make it feel eerie, like I said, and it is a fun atmosphere still at the end of the day, though. So Tesla's Time Machine is about Nikola Tesla, and the premise of it is that you are building your own homemade time machine to go back in time in order to save his patents before his home office was raided for his patents. Yes. So the premise is to be able to go back in time, get those patents, and get out before it gets raided.
Bring energy to everyone in the world for free.
Yeah.
Yes. Gotcha.
Yeah. So The Thompsons is based off of one of the most popular cartoon shows, and it's just a really cool setting and things like that. And we're just excited to be able to bring a cartoon to life, basically, and it's a really fun game and really cool atmosphere for sure. The premise is for that room that you are neighbors of your favorite cartoon family who has gone into witness protection as the Thompsons, and your premise is to go back and see if you can find any evidence in the home that'll help lead to whoever is framing them. Clue is based off the board game Clue. So just like the game, you have to try to slowly eliminate the suspects, the rooms that the murder was committed in, and the weapon in order to be able to solve the game. So going throughout the game, you will be finding clues in the room that will lead to eliminating those aspects, and at one at a time you will be able to slowly solve the mystery of who did it, where, and with what weapon.
I also talked to Heather about what different rooms they had at Keymasters, their other location.
The rooms we have there is the alley, which is a backstreet alley where you're undercover FBI agents infiltrating a gang, trying to find some illegal activity that's going on and hopefully earn your gun and badge in the process. Expelled is a classroom setting. It's a little twist on Saved by the Bell where you have to stop being framed for the biggest prank you've ever seen. And there's a little twist at the end where you can once again slap everything back on the EAs if you pay attention to the game. And then the Mad Scientist is actually the oldest room we ever built, but it's still a really good game. So it's set in a darkened jail cell. You have to try and escape the jail cell into the Mad Scientist lab and then complete a bunch of puzzles before you can get out of there. So it's basically that you are unintelligent human beings that have been trapped and put through a series of tests in order to be released back into society.
What thought process do you try to apply? Like, what do you try to do when you're designing a room?
So thought process in designing rooms is the most fun part of the business for sure. But it's also the most stressful because that's where you're really fleecing out all your ideas and things like that. And you just don't know that something's going to work 100% until you test it. So it's great to have ideas on paper and we try to fleece them out as much as we possibly can. But it still needs work until we get into testing mode. And that is a very important part for us where we finish designing a room and then we'll test it, and our friends, family, or customers that we invite to do the testing of it will let us know certain things, and we end up changing a couple puzzles all the time. So it's still always a work in progress, but it's a lot of fun to do for sure.
Sometimes it's just a matter of sitting on a bunch of chairs and just discussing the space around you. That's the first process where we kind of just picture it in front of us and what we would see. And then Greg is the one who builds all the sets, and then I do the decor and painting of everything. So it's a matter of just the collaboration of both worlds coming together, the building versus the decor. And Greg is always the ones that brings my unicorn ideas back down to earth.
So in terms of good puzzles and bad puzzles, the main thing that we want to make sure of is that it makes sense at the end of the day. If someone has to make a leap in logic to get to the answer, then it's a poorly written puzzle. So what we focus on is that even if the person doesn't get it right on their first try, that they would eventually have gotten there, and that they would never get there kind of thing would be something we want to avoid. So if someone is ultimately at the end of the day unable to solve something, then the puzzle isn't written as well as we would like it to be. Now obviously everyone thinks very differently, so that can be taken with a grain of salt and things, but you try to at least get to the 99% of people as opposed to just focusing on that 1%.
Of these 4 rooms, what would you say is your favorite?
For myself personally, the Thompsons is my favorite, just because I'm a big fan of the cartoon that it's replicated after, and I just think the setting is something that people just talk about a lot when they walk in and almost forget to play the game for a few minutes because they're just caught up in the atmosphere. But each room that we have is really, really cool in its own unique way. The graveyard is one of the crazier set designs that we've ever built for sure. And the atmosphere in that room is really something that you can focus on and get caught up in as well. And same thing with Clue. If you love the board game, that's a game that you're absolutely going to love. And then Tesla's Time Machine is a really tech-heavy room that people really enjoy a lot of the tech that goes on in that room. So each room has their own uniqueness to it. That's a lot of fun.
You want to look for connections in the room, similarities around the room that have to do with the puzzle you're working on. Usually we won't have all the information in one spot. We encourage people to look around the room for different parts of that puzzle. So for example, in Santa's workshop, where we had 3 snowflakes on a window, first you had to figure out that First you had to light up the tree outside, so you were able to see. If you look close enough, you will see that each one is unique.
Okay.
And in the room, you had a picture of a snowflake with an eyeball in the middle of the snowflake. And so you had to figure out that if not open the window, which often people try to do, they try to force their way through the window and get into that section where the tree is. But if you looked through the snowflake very carefully, the lights on the tree would change into different shapes. And so these shapes were a snowman, a candy cane, and gingerbread man.
Oh, okay.
And right next to the window on a plate, there were chocolate chip cookies. So in those shapes, there were 12 different shapes, but you had to narrow down those shapes in particular and then count the chocolate chips on those, and that gave you a number code for the lock right next to it.
Why did you open an escape room?
Why?
Yeah.
Honestly, both of us have been intrigued by puzzles for as long as we can remember. When I was young, my dad used to put a tiny little cardboard thing, and whenever you got that on your birthday and you saw the white cardboard, you'd be super excited because it would send you on a scavenger hunt looking for your gift instead of just opening it. So that was my introduction to kind of the Ridley escape room. But Greg and I actually went and we were watching The Big Bang Theory, and it was on The Big Bang Theory, and then the next day Greg surprised me with an escape room that was in Burlington. Unfortunately, that one recently closed, but they were our inspiration for kind of starting things up. They were a young couple themselves, and we thought to ourselves, we could totally do this, and we have a passion for it. So
Let's say someone's solving the room and having difficulty. What would be some kind of tips that you might give them while they're doing that?
Usually my tips come before the game. So I try and make sure that I never have to give them as many tips over the intercom as possible. So we very much focus on our pregame before we get them into the room. And one of the things that we always stress is escape rooms are all about communication. You want to make sure that you're looking for things that look similar to each other. Pay attention to things like color, letter, number, and patterns that you see throughout the room. And this is the kind of information that people need before they go into an escape room, because sometimes they have no idea what it's all about. And I always say that sometimes you will be entering codes into locks to help yourselves gain resources. However, sometimes it's a simple task that is needed in order to advance yourself in the game. So it kind of sets the stage for, you might be solving logical puzzles, but you also might be solving physical puzzles as well. Okay. Next level escape rooms primarily is our location for doing corporate team building activities. And we've had a couple of the ones on Upper James already come and do their corporate team building time. And it's really cool because we can put them in the room at the same time. So 4 different rooms going at the same time, and we're watching them so they can come out at the same time. And they all have kind of different traits and characteristics that come alive in the escape room. I always say you can't hide who you are in an escape room. Your colors just show. So bosses learn a lot about their employees while watching. You learn who wallflowers are, you learn who go-getters are, and it's really interesting to see, and also very telling when you're thinking of promotions or anything like that. But it's also just a really fun activity, bonding exercise for people to do as a corporate. We're watching them the entire time, from beginning to end, and we're giving them clues along the way. We always ask them kind of like how to begin. Do you want a lot of clues? Do you want a few clues? Sometimes we have to switch it up a little bit halfway through, but mostly we do want them to see as much of the room as possible. But yeah, we're communicating through walkie-talkie, and you're never alone. Right when you walk through the door, basically, is when we try and figure out what kind of game you'd like to have. So if you walk in and you look determined and you're a little more quiet, reserved, we might think that maybe you want the challenge. And so through talking to you and getting to know what kind of clues you're interested in, maybe you want us to back off a little bit more with clues, we understand that you're in it for the challenge. Whereas a family might walk in and they have kids and they're hanging off the parents and just excited to go, then we've decided that you just want to have fun. The doors always remain unlocked for in case of any emergency. We always want you to have a place to escape.
Yeah.
So we don't lock our doors, but we do have a different way, whether it be a key or a code or something else you need in order to escape the room. So we explain that all to our guests, and if we have you in handcuffs, you're never actually in handcuffs. You're always have a safety release in order to release you, so you never feel restricted or unsafe in our rooms.
So right now, Next Level is pretty much fairly new. So our focus right now is to build new rooms at Keymasters. So we just finished knocking down our Santa's Workshop room that we had there for a few years, and we are currently building new room in that one, which we're not really releasing what it is just yet, but we're hoping that we can get it done in time for Christmas this year, so that people can play the game with their family and stuff this Christmas.
Okay.
And then our plan is to, in the future, knock down our Mad Scientist room, replace that with a room, and potentially even knock down our Expelled room there, just as those rooms are a little older and we want to revamp and make things as great as every other room that we have, and really showcase what work that we've put into the business.
That's all for now. Back to you, Steven. I'm trapped in this again. How do I get out of this? Right, like Calvin Johnson, I must retire. Just kidding. Before we move on to our next segment, I'll take a short break. See you soon. I like that joke, huh? Well, welcome back. With things opening up as they are, people are curious as to what they can do around town. While the Ontario Public website does dictate as to what things are open and what you can do, such as going indoor dining, completely open, or going to a shopping mall, completely open, there are some things that have some restrictions and limitations that we still have to apply by. Religious institutions can only have limited numbers, recreational facilities, casinos, all these things have to apply by some kind of restriction. And one that affects our, entertainment, are movie theaters. And as you know, Hamilton is home to a good deal of local small theaters that screen more than just the newest blockbusters. Many of them show a lot of art house films, or films that, might appear at a film festival that might be set in Hamilton starting sometime around the beginning of November. Might be a topic worth bridging over to eventually in a future episode. Before we get to that, it's good to note that this month is October. Now, why is that good to note? And why am I relating this to films and theaters as a whole? Well, you see, October is the month that not only do the leaves change, not only does it start getting a little chillier, so you want to bunker down with your pumpkin spice lattes and whatnot. That's very basic of me to say. But it's also the month where the nights get scarier. Yes, that's right. October is the month of horror films. And for a lot of us, this is the month where we go check out some of those films that really give us a fright. Films like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, or Halloween, while you're watching it on Halloween, are all films that have made its way into the collective culture of our cultural stew, if that makes sense. No matter how low budget or cheesy those films are. If anything, some of the appeal of these films is that they are low budget, and they don't really apply to social standard norms of film. The idea is that maybe the acting's not so good, and maybe some of the gore is just gratuitous, and that's what gives it kind of a bit of a underground counterculture appeal. When I think about counterculture, horror, underground, and all these things, the first place that comes to my mind is Staircase Theater, located at 27 Dunderd Street North. Last time we checked up on the Staircase, the place was primarily operating as a takeout restaurant, but since things have opened up and we are in the stage 3, I believe, they've opened up themselves as more of a venue, a place where you can see theater and other events. So I spoke to one of its co-owners, Marc Nascimento, about what they're hosting, what they're hoping to show, and what they've got planned for the spooky month of October. Stephen, over to you.
My name's Marc Nascimento.
Okay, and maybe your title?
Owner of One Up Games and one of the new, owners of Staircase Theater. We're called People Under the Staircase. Everything has been catered to horror movies.
Yeah.
So we did 28 Days and 28 Weeks Later just yesterday. And then we had the Monsters of Schlock show, which sort of fit in that realm, kind of creepy clowns and all this stuff. We have like the Babadook. We're doing Rocky Horror Picture Show on the 17th. So we really embrace Halloween here. So don't have a set calendar, and we sort of can't because we're not considered an actual movie theater. So we have a limited amount of movies that we could play. Certain local theaters aren't too happy about that. Either way, so we're doing film every once in a while, but we are catering more towards live performances. So we want theater shows, we want stand-up routines, we want improv. We want like live music, so we're setting up the stage up here. So it's going to be more of a live theater space than even a movie house.
Okay.
The movies only sort of get interjected to sort of fill space.
Gotcha.
We have comedy at least once a month now, this troupe called Smooth Comedy. And this month we actually have the Monsters of Schlock. If you ever go on YouTube, they're like a comedy duo, freak show, just like lots of really crazy stuff. So they're in Staircase all through October on the weekends. So.
And for those who are interested or curious, the Monsters of Schlock are a pair of brothers, Sweet Pepper Klopek and the great Burnaby Q Orbax, who create a comedic menagerie of stunts, skits, and other self-inflicted injuries for the enjoyment of their adoring fans. Not only has their show toured around the world, but the Monsters of Schlock are both recorded in the Guinness Book of World Records. Sweet Pepper for having the most mousetraps released on a human tongue in a minute, and Orbax for the furthest, heaviest truck pull, pulling a 9,000-pound truck 111 meters using only 2 shark hooks inserted into his back. In addition to these 2 records, they both boast around 26 different world records that have been both performed live on television. Their past is almost as interesting as their present. Orbax received his undergraduate and doctorate in physics and teaches at the University of Guelph, while also performing as a circus sideshow and a professional wrestler, while Sweet Pepper is the frontman for the band The Legendary Klopeks. You can find a teaser of their work on their YouTube channel where they perform stunts like microwaving their own hand or catching shot bullets. You can check out their show, which is performing at the Staircase Theater on October 16th, 22nd, 28th, 29th, and 30th. Anyway, back to the Staircase.
The restaurant section's pretty much how we maintain everything here. Yeah. So that's our focus.
Yes, right. Yeah. It's still a vegan bar for the most part?
It is, yep. We're switching up our menu quite a bit.
Okay.
We're going to keep certain things like burgers and such, but a lot of the menu is going to get overhauled.
Oh, okay.
We just feel that we could do better overall. So
Sure. Gotcha.
So our first band that's actually coming down is, I believe it's either October 16th or 17th. I'm getting my dates wrong. They're called Night Show, and a really cool band. And actually, one of the, if knowledge serves me correctly from what I've heard, she's one of the top theremin players in the world.
Okay.
So it's really cool. She's going to be setting up here. We have it all set up, and we can't wait to see how it goes. Like, it'll be our first show. If you go on our website, People Under Staircase, we might actually go back to staircasehamilton.com. Either way, check out our website. All our events and dates are there. If anyone wants to do any shows, please contact us at info@peopleunderstaircase.com, and we'll get back to you. We want to support the community as much as we can.
And that's all for now. Back to you, Stephen. That's all we have for Hammer D20. If you are interested in being a part of the show, you can sign up through Cable 14's Beyond TV service. All you've got to do is go on Cable 14's front page, click Get Involved, click on Guest Appearance, and let us know. And then fill out the form and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'd love to hear what you've got happening in your life. So, If you would like to discuss that, or tell me of an event that you're doing, or happening, or organizing, or just fun to talk about the latest happenings at the blood bank. That wasn't very good. I'm all ears. Also, if you can contact me through my email or through my Facebook, my email is svens@hotmail.ca. That's all we have for Hammer D20. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you later.